We are happy to be joined now with UK Athletic Director Mitch Barnhart. Mitch, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Matt.
Good. Well, we're coming off, obviously, a good few weeks here recently, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the football program. I mean, there are some big games coming up, but we've seen a tremendous advancement from a few years ago. When you hired Mark Stoops, in your vision, is where Kentucky is now sort of what you were hoping to see?
Well, we're gaining ground on it. Now, I think that the things that you'd hope from a Mark Stoops football team was, one, you'd have some depth in your roster from recruiting. And I don't think there's any question he has worked really, really hard to advance that piece for us. Two, I felt like in this league you really had to play solid defense. And we're starting to see a defense that's beginning to take shape. It's not perfect yet, but through early part of the season, defending the run a lot better than what we used to. I think we've got a little depth on our defensive line. We've had a couple of injuries, and we've been able to bring people in that have been able to come in for those who were injured and actually play well and not lose a whole lot defensively.
You know, the thing that surprised me the most, and I will freely admit I didn't see it coming, is the recruiting. I mean, I thought that you could win here to a level, but I never thought you could recruit because there's not a base in Kentucky. But his ability to sort of create an Ohio base, which has almost become the Kentucky base, I just didn't see that coming. Did you?
Well, I think what we've always talked about is the 6-hour radius around Lexington. And if you go 6 hours around Lexington, and we've said it since we came here 15 years ago, that there's some incredible population around 6 hours. And I've always said if a mom or a dad wanted to come to watch their child play any sport, how far would they travel? And on any given weekend, if you can go 6 hours, you can sort of go see your young person play. So if you do that and you start looking at where that reaches from Lexington, it goes a lot of places. And a lot of that is in Ohio, which is, oh, by the way, where Mark resides. So he's got a lot of contacts up there, a lot of people, and we're a familiar place to a lot of folks. The Southeastern Conference is a great conference to recruit to, and we use that a lot as well. And then the last piece of the puzzle for us was we had to put some things in place that gave Mark a chance. It was really, really to be able to say, come play in our league, and Lexington's a great place, and boy, you'll get playing time. Those were all good things, but young people today also like bells and whistles, and they like to know that you've got some things that make sense. The Joe Kraft Football Training Center in our stadium have given us the chance to have some bells and whistles to go along with that.
Well, what's the hardest part for you? I mean, you were here with Rich Brooks, and the beginning of that, there was a lot of people saying ditch Rich and Mitch. And then you had the Joker Phillips era, where I know you were close to him and had to make a decision that was really hard. And then even some last year after the 0-2 start, hearing some of that same thing about Mark. As an AD, how do you deal with fans, media, etc., saying you got to make a change, and you're there, and maybe you have a personal relationship with them too? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think that there's lots of pieces to that puzzle. I mean, there's a lot of pieces. There's the responsibility to the program in total. You have a responsibility to your infrastructure as it relates to your finances are a real important part. I have 2 programs that feed 20. And so that's a piece that has to be inherent on my mind. I don't think there's anybody in college athletics that doesn't understand the way this thing is structured, and that there's 400 other athletes in our program that are totally dependent upon about 120.
So when you have a game like that, for the infamous game in Joker Phillips here with Vandy, where the stadium's empty, you're not just thinking about the football program, you're thinking about the whole athletic program.
I mean, there's certainly implications, no question about that. So that's one piece of it. Then there's the personal piece of it. I mean, there's the personal side to it, the relationships you have with the head coach. And I don't want to put one ahead of the other. They're equally important. That relationship with your head coach and his family, those assistant coaches' families, and all the people that trickle down and what that means. It's far-reaching, and that's important. You've got young people looking to you saying, where are we headed? You know, what is the direction of this program? And so you really work hard to try and put all those pieces of the puzzle together. The last thing you want to do is interject yourself into that thing and worry about yourself. And so I think early on in my career I worried, you know, you always worried about what's that going to mean for me. And, you know, I've been doing this 20 years as an AD, and I think I've sort of, I don't know if it becomes scar tissue or what the deal is, but you get to a spot where you say, okay, you realize it's not about you. It's about those other 3 or 4 things in the deal, and you got to make sure that you take care of those things first. And if you take care of those things first in the right way, generally those things will take care of themselves.
Obviously, Stoops is the coach now, and one of the things I always hear people say is, okay, let's say we have this magical year this year. You know, the schedule sets up if things go a certain way.
Yeah.
Can you keep the coach? And I think your goal, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think your goal is to make this a job that is a destination job, you know, except maybe the one or two schools that you can't help with, but that people want to stay here. How do you do that beyond just writing a check?
I think that there's a piece where you want coaches to understand that you've invested in more than just the dollar piece of them, that you appreciate the job that they bring to the University of Kentucky, the things that they do for it, that their families appreciated. So that's important. I think that having an ability to see a fan base that loves what you're doing is important. So, you know, having people in the stadium and supportive. Also, I think it's important that they know that at the least little bit of misfortune, you're not walking away from them. You're not just going, oh my word, what in the world was that about? You know, and I think we've been pretty good at that. I think that that's something that people would say, you know, you guys have been strong in that, and we know that they're aligned, we're aligned with them in that moment. But you know, I think we've done a really good job of showing in other sports at Kentucky, albeit not football, is a different animal, that we've created destination jobs for a lot of our coaches. We've got some really good head coaches at Kentucky, and so I could go up and down a roster and say that person had a chance to leave, that person, all for places that would be deemed more desirable than ours because of weather or facilities or traditions, and they've all stayed.